Good morning, students. Today let us study principles of alloying. Okay. Now, unless large amounts of alloying elements are added, the micro constituents of alloy steel remains the same as in carbon steels. Okay. So, alloy steel contains micro constituents, so they remain same as in carbon steels. You know that steel contains carbon, right? Based on the carbon content, you know that there are different varieties of steels. Okay. Now, in general, carbon remains the principal element affecting the properties of alloy steels. Okay, this has been already discussed in the previous classes. So, carbon, because of carbon, okay, the properties of steel varies. Okay. Although the alloying elements have specific effects on the properties, they mostly alter the properties by the influence on the amount and distribution of carbon and on the critical points. So, based on the amount of carbon present in steel, the properties of steel vary. Okay. Next slide. Effects of alloying elements. Now, there are three important effects of alloying elements. Okay. Now, first one is carbide formation, second one is solid solution formation, third one is deoxidation. Okay. Carbide formation nothing but combination with carbon. Okay. Solid solution is two solid phases mix, so that mixture is called solid solution. Deoxidation is removal of oxygen. Okay. Oxidation is addition of oxygen, deoxidation is removal of oxygen. Okay. So, let us study in detail these three effects. Okay. Now, first one is carbide formation. Just as carbon forms hard carbide with iron, some elements like chromium, tungsten, titanium, vanadium, molybdenum and manganese also form hard carbides. So, in addition to iron, carbon, iron carbon compound is called iron carbide. So, other elements like chromium, tungsten, etc., they also form hard carbides. These carbides are usually associated with iron carbide and are often collectively referred to as cementite. Okay. So, they are associated with iron carbide, they are called cementite. The carbides of the alloying elements retain their characteristic properties at higher temperature than iron carbides. Okay. So, these carbides obtained as a result, they retain their properties even at higher temperatures than iron carbide. Next slide. Second effect is solid solution formation. The formation of solid solution, which depends on the structure of the crystals. So, it depends on the structure of the crystals. By forming solid solution, element stabilizes ferrite, that is, alters the critical temperatures. The formation of solid solution also influences the detectoid point. Now, what is detectoid point? Detectoid point indicates the location at which solid phases coexist. So, when two solid phases coexist, that point is called detectic point. And in the iron carbon phase diagram, this point indicates temperature 1333 degree Fahrenheit and carbon content of 0.8%. So, each solid solution has got definite detectic point, or detectoid point. Next slide, deoxidation. So, as I told you already, deoxidation means removes dissolved oxygen or removes oxygen. Okay. Oxides of aluminum, silicon, titanium, vanadium have high melting points. These elements, because of the affinity for oxygen, so these elements have got affinity for oxygen and then these acts as a deoxidizers. Now, how these elements act as deoxidizers? They reduce iron oxide and remove dissolved oxygen. Okay, they remove or reduce iron oxide, that means remove oxygen from iron oxide. Okay, therefore, they act as deoxidizers. Okay. Now, so this chapter is over. Okay. So, next we shall see another chapter. Okay, another chapter. Nanochemistry. Now, this nanochemistry, paper 3, chapter 2.3, unit 2. Okay. Now what is nanochemistry? Now these are the various structures of nanoparticles or nano examples. Okay. Next slide. Introduction. Nano. A little word has drawn attention of the recent years. Researches are being done having articles of nano size, and this area of research in combination of chemistry and nanoscience growing fast like an independent branch called nanochemistry, and its domain called nanotechnology. Nanochemistry is the combination of chemistry and nanoscience. Okay, so now nanochemistry has been a wide application in all fields of chemistry. Okay, so it is nothing but the chemistry and nanoscience. Introduction. What is the introduction for nano? Nano, a little word drawing attention of the world. More researches are being done in terms of particles of nano size, and these are of research where chemistry is taking baby steps and is growing as an independent branch called nanoscience, and it is domain called nanotechnology. Now what is nanochemistry? Nanochemistry is a branch of nanoscience. Okay, it deals with the chemical applications. Nanomaterials in nanotechnology. Now which are the nanomaterials in nanotechnology? Nanochemistry involves study of synthesis and characterization of materials of nanoscale size. What does nanochemistry chapter involve? It is the study of synthesis and characterization of materials on nanoscale, okay, or nanoscale size. Nanochemistry is a relatively new branch of chemistry. So it is a new branch of chemistry, okay, concerned with the unique properties associated with assemblies of atoms or molecules of nanoscale, which is nanoscale of the order of 1 to 100 nanometer. So the size of nanoparticles lies somewhere between individual atoms or molecules, okay, and larger assemblies of bulk material which are of familiar with. Okay. Next slide. In 1951, Professor Richard Feynman introduced the new field of nanoscience to fabricate the materials at the atomic as well as molecular levels. Now what do you mean by nano? Nano means 1 billionth of a meter. Okay, that means 1 nanometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 9 meters. Nanoscience is the study of fundamental principles of molecule structures with at least one dimension roughly to 1 to 100 nanometer. Okay. Next slide. Nanoparticles and nanolayers have very high surface to volume and aspect ratio, and this makes them ideal for use in various fields. What is the role of chemistry with nanoparticles? Chemistry plays an important role in the synthesis and characterization of nano building units such as nanocrystals of metals, oxides, semiconductors, ceramics, polymers, etc. Synthesis, structure, energetics, response, dynamics, and variety of other properties and related applications form the emerging areas of nanoscience. Okay, next slide. Materials on nanoscale examples. So here are the examples for materials, okay, which exist in nanoscale. For example, human hair. And what is the diameter of human hair? 50,000 nanometer. Okay. Then bacterial cell size is a few hundreds of nanometers in diameter. Then smallest things visible with the unaided human eye are about 10,000 nanometers in size. Then 10 hydrogen atoms in a line make up 1 nanometer. An ant is 5 million nanometer long. A DNA is 2 nanometer long. Okay, so these are the different examples, okay, for nanoscale. Next slide. Examples for nanomaterials. Types, nanocrystals and clusters. Size 1 to 10 nanometer. Which are the materials present in this range? Metals, semiconductors, magnetic materials. Okay. Nanowires. What is the size? 1 to 100 nanometer diameter. And what are the materials? Metals, semiconductors, sulfides, nitrides. Okay. The nanotubes. What is the size of nanotubes? 1 to 100 nanometer in diameter. And what are the materials? Carbon nanotubes, layered metals, and chalcogenous. Okay. You can see the figures, okay, diagrams for nanocrystals. nanowires and then nanotubes. Okay, next slide. Methods of synthesis of nanomaterials. Okay, there are two important methods to synthesize nanomaterials. Which are the two important methods? Top-down approach and then bottom-up approach. Okay, there are two general approaches to the synthesis of nanomaterials and fabrication of their structures: top-down and bottom-up approach. Okay, top-down approach means bigger particles are broken down into particles of nano size. You can see here, bulk particle is taken. Okay, it is powdered and then finally it is brought into nanoparticle size. This is called top-down approach. Alright. Then bottom-up approach means small particles are taken. Okay, for example, atoms, small particles, atoms are taken. Then they are made to combine or clustered. Okay, they are made to combine or clusters are formed and they are converted into a size of nanoparticles. Okay, nanoparticles. So this approach is called bottom up, and the top down means big particles are taken, broken into nanoparticles. Okay, and bottom up means small particles are taken, they are combined together and then brought into the nanoparticles. Okay, that is called bottom up approach. Next slide. Top-down approach. These methods use larger or macroscopic initial structures which can be externally controlled in the processing to reduce to nanometric levels. That is, begin with the larger scale, reduce to nanoscale. Okay. Now, what are the examples for top-down approach? Etching through the mask, ball milling. These are the examples for top-down approach. Next is ball milling. Here this ball milling is given as example. So we shall see what is ball milling. It is the simplest and easiest method to get particles at submicron size. So this is the easiest method as well as simplest method to get particles of submicron size. Ball milling is a grinding method that grinds nanotubes into extremely fine powders. Okay. Next slide. Ball milling, top-down approach. Ball milling is the simplest and easiest method to get particles of submicron size. A ball mill works on the principle of impact. High purity oxide materials in proper proportions are mixed together with water or any other solvent. Okay, so high purity oxide materials in proper proportions, you have to mix it well with water or any other suitable solvent. Okay. Then the slurry, the mixture obtained is called slurry. The slurry is placed in polythene container. Okay, you have to put it inside the polythene container containing stainless steel or alumina balls. So you must add to the polythene container stainless steel or alumina balls. The polythene containers are stopped properly and made to revolve on the mill or machine for long time. You have to roll, okay, you have to roll the polythene containers, okay, in mill or machine for long time. The process is lengthy and takes longer time to bring down the particle size to submicron level. So by constant rotating the machine, okay, you can break down, okay, the bigger size particles into the submicron level or nanoparticles. Okay, so this is the diagram of instrument of ball milling. Okay, next slide. Now second one is bottom up approach. These approaches include the miniaturization of material components. Okay, so up to atomic level with further self-assembly process or clusters then leading to the formation of nanostructure. That means small particles are combined together, okay, or assembled to get one particle of higher size. That is called the higher in the sense nanoparticle size. So that is called bottom up approach. Okay. Let us start with the atoms or molecules and build up to nanostructures. During self-assembly, the physical process operating at a nanoscale are used to combine basic unit into larger stable structures. Okay. Next slide. The biggest problem with the top-down approach is the imperfection of surface structure. Now, there is some problem with the top-down approach because you will get imperfect surface structure, okay, and significant crystallographic damage to the process pattern. So there will be damage to the crystallographic structure also. Okay. When structures fall into a nanometer scale, there is a little chance for top-down approach. All the tools we have possessed are too big to deal with such tiny subjects. Bottom-up approach also promises a better chance to obtain nanostructures with less defects. Okay. So among these, which is the most appropriate or better one? Bottom-up approach, because of less defects. Okay. And more homogeneous and chemical composition. We will get more homogeneous chemical composition in bottom-up approach rather than top-down approach. Okay. Next, electrode deposition. Now, what is electrode deposition? Electrode deposition is a well-known method to produce metallic coatings by the action of an electric current. So, deposition in the presence of electric current is called what? Electrode deposition. Okay. On a conductive material immersed in a solution containing the salt of the metal to be deposited. We have to dip the metal, okay, which is to be electrode deposited in a solution, suitable solvent, okay, conductive material, and then electric current is passed. Okay, so electrode deposition takes place. Electroplating is also called electrode deposition. Okay, electroplating can be considered to occur by the process of electrode deposition. Its process which uses electrical current to reduce cations of a desired material from a solution and coat that material as a thin film onto a conductive substrate surface. Okay, next slide. Example, simple electroplating system for the deposition of copper from copper sulfate. Okay, so you would like to deposit copper, okay, from copper sulfate solution. What is the procedure? The electrolytic solution contains positive charged copper ions, okay, cations, and negatively charged sulfate ions. So copper sulfate solution contains positively charged copper ions and negatively charged sulfate ions. Okay. Under the applied external electric field, the cations migrate to the cathode. Now what happens when external electric field or external electric field is applied? The cations migrate to the cathode, okay, when they are discharged and deposited metallic copper. So cations are copper ions or cupric ions. They go to cathode, okay, and get deposited as copper metal. Okay. Now copper from the anode dissolves into the solution and maintains electrical neutrality. So at the same time, copper from the anode dissolves and goes into solution forming cupric ions. Okay, so that electrical neutrality is maintained. The overall process is known as electrolysis. The entire process is called what? Electrolysis. If some noble metal such as platinum is used as the anode, the overall reaction at anode is the oxidation of water. Suppose we use instead of copper platinum, okay, as the anode, then the overall reaction at anode is the oxidation of water takes place. According to the equation, 2H2O gives 4H plus oxygen plus 4 electrons. Okay. Now here there is a diagram you can see here. Okay. Copper electrode, cathode, okay, copper positive electrode, okay, anode, acts as anode. The electrolyte is copper sulfate solution, you can see here. Okay. The sulfate ions remain unchanged in quantity during electrolysis. So sulfate ions remain same in the solution. However, if noble metal is used as anode, the concentration of cupric ions will decrease. When noble metal is used as anode, concentration of cupric ions decreases and that of ions will increase with time. Under this situation, extra copper sulfate must be added into the solution from time to time, and the hydrogen ions must be removed by neutralization with an alkali or by using buffering solution. Okay. So if you use platinum instead of copper, you have to remove the hydrogen ions time to time. Okay, time to time. So here there is a simple diagram of copper. Okay, copper cathode, copper anode. You can see here electrolyte is present over here. Okay, and this is the reaction at copper cathode. Copper 2 plus minus 2 electrons in copper. Okay, this is the cathode and this is the anode. Okay, copper anode. Copper anode. This is the reaction taking place. Copper dissolves to the cupric ions and electrons. Okay. And this diagram shows electrolytic cell for the deposition of copper from copper sulfate solution. Okay. Now next we shall see advantages of nanomaterials. Okay, what are the advantages? Nanomaterials have improved mechanical strength, physical properties and chemical properties. Decrease in porosity. So nanomaterials decrease the porosities. They enhance thermostability. Nanoparticles or nanomaterials increase thermostability. They exhibit unusual optical, magnetic field and electrical properties. Then they have got tailor-made properties, exceptional strength, hardness, etc. They decrease coefficient of thermal expansion, okay, and increase wear and tear resistance. So these are the some of the advantages using nano materials. Okay, so I will stop at this stage. Alright, please go through all the slides. Any difficulty, please contact me. Okay, thank you.